You're listening to the Begin Within Health Show with Nate Slager. For more, go to beginwithin.fit/podcast, or to enroll right now in our flagship coaching program, go to beginwithin.fit/coaching. Welcome back to the Begin Within Health Show. This is fitness expert Nate Slager. I'm here to support you in becoming the healthiest version of yourself. And we started last week on part one of our reflection from the previous calendar year. I know at the time that you're listening to this, you're getting ready for a new calendar year. No doubt you're excited. You have a lot that you want to accomplish. One of the things that we have found is so important in coaching our clients, the people that I'm working with each and every week, both in our coaching program and personal training clients that I work with on Zoom, is the need to reflect. We have to pause from time to time and reflect on how things are going. And I want to facilitate that for you today. I don't want you to just zip past this and try something new. If we don't take time to reflect, we don't have the opportunity to learn from our experiences, learn from both our mistakes and learn from what's been working well. We pass up that opportunity and we just keep trying and failing, trying and failing, trying and failing. If that is what you've been experiencing over the last few months, the last few years, or maybe you feel like your entire life has just been a series of attempts and failures when it comes to fitness and making real health improvements, having some control over your own health, then the cause, perhaps, or rather something you can do to help, may very well be to stop, to reflect, and then to use the information you gather as you reflect in order to move forward. And I want to facilitate that for you here today. I started doing this back in episode number 169. If you missed it, go back and listen to it because that's where we got this whole conversation started. Now, here we are on part two of that conversation about reflecting on this past year. So last time in part one, we talked about 3 areas of health: eat, drink, and sleep, that we need to reflect on in order to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. Today, we're going to take a look at 3 more, and there's just 6 total. So these are the other 3, and I promise you, anything that you want to do that is going to impact your health is going to fall into one of these 6 categories: eat, drink, sleep, think, move, and connect. Today, we're going to talk about think, move, and connect in order to see how things have been going for you. Really take a moment and pause and reflect over the last few months or the last calendar year or so in each of these areas and ask yourself, how have I been doing? What's been going well that I want to keep in place that's going to continue to support me in improving the quality of my life, improving my health? And what are the things that need to change in these areas? So let's dig in. The first area we're going to talk about today is an area I call think. And this kind of encapsulates our relationship with ourself. So we can put so many things into this bucket. We put things like taking time for reflection. We put things like having some time to yourself. We put things like how well we're managing our emotions. We put things like journaling. We put things like gratitude practices. Those types of things go into this because it's all about our relationship with ourselves. And perhaps I said it just a bit ago, and it's about managing our emotions. How well am I managing my thoughts and feelings? Because those are a huge part of health, aren't they? And there's so many things we can do. We're finding out things that we can really do in order to influence our feelings. actually influence our feelings. And I'll give you an example. Research is showing that the health of our gut affects how happy we are. Seriously. Studies are showing that. So the things that we do to improve the health of our gut can actually improve how we are feeling, how we're kind of experiencing our own internal environment emotionally. But of course, there are still other things that we can do once those feelings pop up in order to manage them. And so this area is all about that. That's what we call think. It's all about being intentional. It's about our mental, kind of our own mental health management in this area we call think. And again, we use a verb. I've chosen verbs in order to indicate each of these areas, to represent each of these different areas, because it's all about taking action, right? But today, I'm going to talk about the big area that pops up for those that I'm working with within this kind of bigger umbrella of what we call think, right? Which is our relationship with ourselves. And that specific area within there is stress. How well we're dealing with stress. Because that's the area that comes up again and again as I work with my clients, as I talk with them. It's the thing that they feel is the barrier that's standing between them and a healthier experience within this area of their relationship with themselves. It's stress. So as we reflect back at how we've been doing in the last few months or the last calendar year or so, I want you to think specifically about that word, stress. So here's some questions that can help to reflect on that area, how you've been doing. And this, sometimes we can get very judgmental with ourselves. We can feel like we haven't been doing a good job. I'm terrible at this. I'm just no good at it. Hey, today we want to set that aside. We kind of want to get into that Sherlock Holmes mindset of just investigating. We're just curious. We're just looking for clues so that we can improve in the future, right? That's what this is all about, is moving in a healthier direction. So if you can put on your Sherlock Holmes hat and move forward with me, here's some questions to reflect on this area. How have you been doing with stress on a daily basis? Are you aware of the stress triggers that come up for you? Like, what are the things? What are the things that have caused the most stress over the past year or so? And what steps have you been taking to try to manage those triggers, those particular areas? Are you working on taking breaks throughout the day? Practicing some steps that help you to relax, to really relax, taking some actions that help you relax. Have you been trying that? Are you in the process of that? Or have you even built some habits around that? Kind of what I think of it as is a vacation that you take during the day. Whatever you do to make that happen. Is it at the start of the day as part of your morning ritual, end of the day, where you really put some intention into healthy forms of relaxation? Or is it during the day, right? Even rushing from one appointment to the next, do you have a few minutes where you can just sit in the car and just breathe and have some time to yourself to relax? How often do you enjoy, or rather, how often do you engage in things that you enjoy? Like things that are really fun, things that bring you joy, things that help you to relax. How are you doing when it comes to setting boundaries to manage work life versus personal life? Setting boundaries between there so that not only are we not working into time that we've set aside for ourselves, but that we're not bringing with us stress from work into those times, right? We might actually be sitting down with our laptop or email or whatever, but in our mind, are we bringing work into other areas of life? How about when things come up unexpectedly, unexpected challenges and changes, right? I hear this a lot, is I don't like change. Change is difficult for me. Well, that's not always true, right? Because if we're going to make an improvement, that's change. It's just change that we want. But how do we do when changes come that we weren't expecting, that sometimes are taking us somewhere that initially we feel like is not an improvement? How do we handle those? How have you been doing noticing physical signs of stress in your body, right? Tension, headaches, shoulders shrugging up toward your ears, soreness in those muscles between your shoulders and your neck, or maybe some other physical signs of stress, having difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, having, you know, things that upset sort of our morning routine, right? We get out of bed, we wake up, and all of a sudden, the tension's on right away. How are we doing at noticing that and noticing how it's affecting us physically, maybe even in terms of digestion? That's another thing that can be heavily affected by how we're dealing with stress. Have we begun to notice that there's some physical connections? Because we might think, oh, that's a negative thing. Oh man, stress is hurting me physically. It's a positive thing if we're starting to become aware of it. Because once we become aware of it, we can start to manage it. How about support, some type of support system? And it might involve other people, it might not. But what are the things that we do? What's our routine when we do start to notice this stuff? When we start to feel that we are getting elevated levels of stress? What's the system that we kind of engage in order to start relaxing? Do we have one, or do we need to start developing one? And how about prioritizing self-care as part of a daily or weekly routine? How have we been doing with that? It might be something that just pops up when it needs to, and that's okay. We're like, oh, I'm so stressed, I got to go take a walk in the woods. That's me raising my hand, right? But how about building that in? How have we been doing? Finding ways to take better care of ourselves emotionally, building that into our daily or weekly routine. Those are all some questions that you can ask that can give you an idea of how you've been doing in this area of stress, which again is kind of a subcategory in the bigger umbrella of what I call think. The category of think, the category of taking control of our thoughts in order to have a better emotional experience in life. So, as you reflect, what stays? What have you been doing well? Take a moment to celebrate it. Write it down. What are the things that, hey, I've been doing this really well. I want to keep doing this in the future. And then secondly, and it's a thing that our brains love to do, is find the what's wrong, right? As we went through those questions, what for you stood out as the thing that I'm not doing that I need to start doing? I need to start moving in that direction. Make sure that you jot that down as well. And then make some intentions around moving in that direction. What are the steps that I need to take right now in order to add that in order to better support my health? All right, next we're going to move on to the category of move. And of course, this one might be self-explanatory. I don't have to spend a lot of time telling you the definition of this big umbrella category of move. It's about moving. It's about movement. It's about physical activity and exercise. How have you been doing in those areas over the past few months, the last calendar year or so? How much has movement been showing up? That physical activity, exercise, playing sports, something that you enjoy. Is it something that you enjoy? Is exercise something you enjoy? Does it feel like a chore? Because if it's been feeling like a chore, I'll tell you what, you are very close to quitting. So what can we do to make it more enjoyable? Is there strength training involved? If possible. Of course, I want you to move in a way that you enjoy, but if you want to dial it in into the things that really are game changers, it's strength training. Strength training is the fountain of youth. There's so many reasons why. I'm not going to dig into them all here, but using your muscles. Those are there for a reason. They are designed to be used. Our body is healthiest when our muscles are being activated, when they are working hard on a regular basis. Things work better. We feel better. Strength training. And how about cardiovascular, right? Just getting the heart rate up for a good amount of time. And it doesn't have to be crazy, right? Just taking a walk, moving your body, and getting that heart rate up. How about staying active throughout the day, especially if you have a job where you're sitting, sedentary, right? How are you doing? Getting up once in a while, parking in the back of the lot, using the stairs instead of the elevator, things like that in order to incorporate activity. Of course, we have our little step trackers, right, that a lot of us wear, a pedometer, a Fitbit, whatever it is, Apple Watches. How you doing? Do you have a step target? Do you use one of those? You don't have to, but I'm just encouraging you to think about movement, how it's showing up in your life and how it's supporting you in your health. How are the steps? How are they doing? Are you getting movement throughout the day? How about being mindful of posture and body mechanics during movement and throughout the day, right? Maybe if you're driving right now, whatever you're doing, you notice your shoulders kind of slouch forward. I just did it. I just straightened up in my chair as I said that, right? Shoulders back, down away from the ears. How are we doing when it comes to posture? Or are there signs that we need to make some adjustments? Do we take breaks throughout the day to break up the long periods of sitting? Do we do some stretching? Do we do some movement that way? Maybe some foam rolling, maybe analyzing areas of posture with the help of an expert who can tell us, hey, here's some overactive muscles that need some work. Here's some underactive muscles that need some work that can help us to move better, to feel better. How about giving our body time to rest and recover between workouts? Usually, honestly, that's not a huge problem that we run into unless somebody is going through a period of intense, acute stress. Then sometimes adding in some really intense workouts isn't going to serve them. But for the most part, unless we're talking about an athlete, somebody who's working out for hours a day, training, we're not usually running into problems with rest and recovery because, again, our bodies are made to move. How satisfied are you with exercise, with physical activity, and where it's fitting into your life and how it's contributing to your overall well-being? And this might be a final question in this area. Do you regularly make adjustments to your physical training, your exercise routine based on how you're feeling? Or are you just the type of person that is going to beat yourself up no matter what? Right? Are we noticing the signals that our body's giving us, and then we adjusting accordingly? Meaning, hey, I feel like a little more energy. I'm going to use it today. Or, you know what? Today, I'm just going to dial it down a little bit, and that's going to be just fine. That's okay. It's okay to do that once in a while. We're not just this 10 out of 10 intensity with every single workout from day to day. We're real people. There are other circumstances that are impacting us. We need to adjust our routine, our exercise routine, in order to keep it in place. Otherwise, if we just try to do the same thing like a machine every single day, we're going to wear out. So those are some questions to think about how movement's been showing up in your life, this category of move. My question for you is, what needs to stay? What have you been doing well? Make sure that you capture that. Write it down. Hey, this is an area I've been doing well in. I'm going to continue to do this and this and this and this. And then, of course, what do you need to improve? How can you make this area even better? What needs to happen? What adjustments can you make? And what small steps can you take right now that might move you in that direction? And now let's move on to our final. This is the sixth area of 6 in this 2-part series on the podcast to reflect on how things have been going over the last year, the last few months. And that is an area we call connect. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm thinking about changing the name of this area simply because I like the 1-syllable verb So when we first put this together, like this is the verb, it's about connect. And what this one represents is our connection with the world around us, and specifically relationships with others, relationship with nature, animals. It all fits in here. And the idea here is with connection, it's not that we're always receiving, but we're also giving. We're connecting, right? There's a reciprocal relationship with each of those areas that I mentioned, and they all fit into connect. And I think a one syllable word that might encapsulate it is touch, right? So many of our senses are about receiving information from the world around us, but when we touch, we're not just receiving information, we're also sending. And that's what this area is all about, of good health. And it has to be there in order for us to be healthy and in order to improve in how healthy we are. This might be an area that needs some attention. So specifically, relationships, right? How satisfied are you with the quality of your relationships? Do you feel a sense of connection and support from your friends and family? Are there any toxic or draining relationships that you need to address? How often do you communicate openly and honestly with friends and family? Do you take time? Do you make time for meaningful interactions with others, or just kind of hit and miss? We'll see what happens. Do you feel like there are healthy boundaries in your relationships? How are your relationships contributing to your happiness, to your well-being? Have you been finding new relationships, right? Expanding your circle, putting some effort into developing new connections with others. Do you prioritize time with those who leave you better? Prioritize time with those who leave you better. They uplift you, they inspire you, they encourage you. Do you make sure that you have that time with them at maybe the expense of other activities or even other people you could be spending time with, right? Intentionally making sure that you're with those that uplift and inspire you. And how about this? How about spending time with people that you can uplift and inspire? And I think in this one, and maybe you picked up on it, right? Especially when we talk about toxic and draining, and we talk about people that are uplifting and inspire you, I think we have to look at not just people, the 3D people in our lives, but also the people that we're interacting with on the World Wide Web, right? And social media specifically. How much is it that those interactions are impacting us in a positive way? I mean, even in your feed, how do you feel when you're scrolling, right? Am I feeling like encouraged, motivated to become a better version of myself, or is the opposite happening? Am I being pulled down? Am I feeling drained because I'm scrolling through things that are not leaving me better? That is totally up to us, right? We can edit that. We can unfollow, we can block, we can do whatever needs to happen in order to make sure that that is a reflection of the person that we want to become. We can make those adjustments. And I mentioned earlier, animals and nature, part of this area. How are we doing with that? Are we spending some time? Are we getting some sunlight on our skin on a daily basis? Are we getting under the sky? Are we spending some time around nature, water, trees? Are we spending some time looking at animals, watching the birds? If you have a pet, do you get some time to just snuggle on a regular basis? Because it makes us healthier. It leaves us better. It helps us support us in becoming a healthier version of ourselves. And how can we perhaps maybe add some things in that area? That's sometimes just fresh air, right? Just getting out there. Getting outside can be a big part of feeling good, feeling positive, being a healthier version of ourselves. So before we wrap up in this sixth area, how are you doing? What are some things that for you are green checks. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Yes, this has to stay a part of my life. What are those things that you can celebrate that you've been doing really well in the previous months? And of course, the big question, that the one you probably already know the answer to, is in this area, what are some things that you might do in order to make improvement? How can you make this area show up even better in your life in order to support you in being the healthiest version possible of yourself? Well, there you go. 2 parts. We went through all 6 of those areas: eat, drink, sleep, think, move, connect. And if you can, try so hard not to be overwhelmed by the things you determined you could do to improve. What I would encourage you to do, here's what I would encourage you to do. If you've got some notes, if you got some things in mind from this part, from the last part, from all of them, just pick one. One thing that you can absolutely be determined that you are going to work on improving. One little step that you can take to move forward in one of those areas. Because if you do, you're going to be a better version of yourself just by taking that one step. What might that step be? Do you have it? Then figure out when you're going to take it and how you're going to do so. Thanks so much for being here with me on the Begin Within Health Show. I can't wait to continue to support you in the new calendar year. Talk with you again soon. Keep taking good care of yourself.